and current affairs programs to educate, defend and promote issues bordering on the girl-child development.
Available records from EduCeleb and UNICEF show that 38% of out-of-school children in Nigeria are girls, which represents 3.8% of about 10.5 million of the total out-of-school children in Nigeria. In line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5, which seeks to achieve gender equality across the world by the year 2030, October 11 every year is designated as the International Day of the Girl Child. It is celebrated to highlight and address the needs and challenges which girls face throughout the globe. It is in a bid to complement government's efforts in ensuring that no one is left behind and helping girls find training and education that will create young, successful women that members of Health Aid for All initiative visited government secondary school to Dunwada.
If a girl gets education or gets knowledge, she's able to know what to do during her surroundings when the time comes.
She can be a lawyer, she can be anything she wants to be. That is if fathers agree to enroll their girl child into school.
The group is advocating empowerment for the girls, especially in bridging the digital divide.
Girls have been left behind in technology and innovation, in professions around science, technology, education and mathematics. Our girls are lagging behind, and today we are raising awareness on this issue and saying leave no girl behind.
Teach girls about taking care of their mental, physical and emotional well-being, and we teach them about the changes that they're going to experience in their body through puberty, menstruation, how to self-advocate for themselves, how to make decisions.
Computer study is being taught. The government equally provided student personal computer, which are being used in the classroom and in our ICT offices.
Helpline Foundation for the Needy, a non-governmental organization, has since been working with role models and like minds using an initiative, Voice of Girls Parliament, to provide supports and build confidence in the girl child.
I want government to work on education and help children who doesn't have their parents alive.
So we carefully selected most of them from these communities.
Dr. Jumai Amadu is the founder of the initiative in Nigeria.
We are very happy, excited with this year's team. It will now bring back the reality and the assurance for them to know that if the United Nations is behind them to achieve this, they'll be able to do it without having any problems at all. So our role is to coach them, to make them believe that you can do it as a girl. That I can do spirit is what we are trying to build in them.
Even though we didn't get as much privilege and as much platform as this generation is getting, now that we know, we have to do all our best possible to protect, not just to give them the leverage to excel, we also have to instill discipline to protect them, encourage them to do more, be more, know more, be confident.
Here, some of the girls converge to celebrate the day where they pledged and subscribed to ending all forms of negative acts against the girl child, being championed by a 15-year rights advocate, Joy Life Alegbemi.
When we invest in girl child education through digital skills, acquisition, and ICT-driven education, we optimize her capacity. Some
selected pupils demonstrated how caring a girl child can be to her parents.
NTA International.
Director General of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, whom the organizers say is a champion of the gender equality, was represented by the General Manager of NTA International, Oganya Simon.
We live in a digital era, and information technology provides a very unique opportunity for every girl to meet her potential as leaders and change makers who can use technology to transform not only their lives, but the world around them.
We are calling on the Nigerian government to ratify the International Labour Organization's Convention C-190 in order to strengthen the rights of the girl child.
We, this generation, may not make it to that promised land, but you guys will. So we need to keep supporting you and we need to keep pushing for a better Nigeria.
A platform, Girl Child Rights Advocacy Forum, that will run on the social media alongside the I Subscribe projects were unveiled.
When I see girls like me hawking, I feel really bad. In my mind, I used to say, I wish I could help them. I think government should do something about it.
The girl child were encouraged to embrace digital literacy as they belong to the digital generation.
Yes, Adebola, digital generation, our future generation. The girl child needs all the support to enable her realize her full potentials. Many thanks. And to road safety. It is that time of the year that people ply the road for one reason or the other. As the Yuletide is fast approaching, the Federal Road Safety Commission is reminding Nigerians that life is precious and one needs to be cautious to preserve it. This sums up the theme of the Commission's flag-off of the campaign on Ember Months by the Co-Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi. Correspondent Tessie Coker reports that it was done in collaboration with the Delta State government.
That was the official flag-off of the 2021 Ember Months campaign, performed by Governor Nyesom Wike, represented. It is an annual event by the Federal Road Safety Corps to raise the consciousness of road users on some safety tips that will translate to a better road use. These Ember Months and the Yuletide, Rivers State Sector Commander Salisu Galadunchi and Zonal Commanding Officer Chidebere Nkonta harped on the need for positive attitudinal change to reduce road mishaps.
We are therefore resolved to continue to educate motorists on the risks inherent in this habit.
The role of the Corps with regard to night journey is only advisory. Avoiding it is more beneficial. Obey traffic rules and regulations at all times if you want to enjoy quality road experience.
Governor Nyesom Wike restated the commitment of the state government to safer roads and called for agency collaboration.
We continue to respect you and offer you the necessary assistance that you need.
The event was attended by representatives of the military and paramilitary agencies, heads of federal ministries, departments and agencies, including the Nigerian Television Authority. The theme of the 2021 Ember Months campaign is maintain safe speed, avoid night travel, and enjoy quality road experience.
And still talking about road safety, we have our correspondent Tessie Coker from Asaba to tell us more on the Ember Months campaign. Hello Tessie, you're welcome to the correspondence.
Thank you.
All right, Federal Road Safety Corps flagged off the Ember Months campaign in Asaba. Tessie, can you tell us why the choice of Asaba?
Well, Asaba was chosen as a spectacular place to flag off the Ember Months campaign because it is a gateway to the southeast, where gridlock is usually recorded during the Yuletide. And don't forget that 2 years ago, road users slept on the bridgehead because of road traffic. And kudos to the Federal Road Safety Corps in the Delta State here. The magic they did, the road users are still applauding them. That last year, nobody slept at the head bridge. Additionally, I want to add that the Delta State government also has a good working relationship with the Federal Road Safety Corps here in Delta State that culminated in the establishment of the Federal Safety Corps Training Center at Walero in Kano is the government area of the state.
All right, Delta State government is collaborating with the FRSC to reduce carnage on roads. What is the level of commitment from the state?
The state government recently bought vehicles and communication gadgets and other logistics for officers to ease the job there. Like I told you earlier that he went to Nochaya to build a training center for the road safety corps officers, to also train officers in that area. And their relationship has been so cordial. And the Delta State government, has even gone, went further to do patches of roads, to ease traffic. Like 2 years ago, like I said, at the head bridge, the bridgehead, the people experienced a gridlock that people need a lot of them to sleep on the bridgehead. So the state government recently, did that road to make it more tolerable for road users.
Tessie, the road safety is a collective responsibility. What was the reaction of our road users, to this campaign? Were they excited? Tell us, how was it like?
Oh, they were quite excited when the call marshal came here to flag off the campaign, and they said that this will go a long way to reduce carnage on the highway. It will go a long way to reduce road accidents. And even though they were happy, they used the opportunity to tell us that they will want measures to be put in place, that corruption and all of that, that when you are a traffic offender should be strictly punished, so that at the end of the day to reduce road accidents. And they said that, well, even though this is the Yuletide season, security should be provided at the flash points to minimize kidnapping and armed robbery. They were quite excited that the campaign was flagged off.
Okay, in other words, we're going to have a beautiful Yuletide from that campaign. What was the take-home from the campaign, especially on the part of the drivers?
Oh, the drivers said that their take-home is going to be like, they are better informed. They don't want to offend the, traffic laws again. They will try and put on their seatbelt. That some people told us, they were quite, the excitement was so much that they told us that they are going to sensitize their own people at the park, telling them what to do, that there is no rush. You don't have to rush to anywhere. You have to, be very careful on the highway so that they will all enjoy the Christmas as the Yuletide is approaching. Yeah.
Yes. Like the saying goes, it's better late than never, so that we'll have a beautiful Yuletide. Thank you so much, Tessie, for being part of the correspondence this week. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Still to come, Nigerian health research and development on COVID-19. That's after the break. Join us again.
Recently, both the president and vice president demonstrated leadership by being among the first Nigerians to have the AstraZeneca vaccine administered to them on live TV for all in the country to see. Subsequently, many federal ministers, political leaders, and members of the Presidential COVID-19 Task Force have publicly taken the vaccine to follow in the footsteps of President Buhari and Vice President Oshibaja. To obtain it yourself, please go to the NPHCDA website. There is a link to click on in order to register and schedule your vaccination. In the meantime, please continue to wear face masks, wash your hands frequently, use hand sanitizer, and observe social distancing. This message was brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest asset the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
Welcome back to the correspondence. Now talking health. Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. If not for anything, global emergence of the novel virus corona and the race to contain it, which necessitated the speedy development of vaccines that were before now non-existent, exemplifies this assertion. Nigeria's Health Research and Development Institute, having metamorphosed over the years since independence in 1960, devised indigenous products for containing the virus. Correspondent Chimdima Ndubisi brings us the report.
It is often said that for a progressive society to maintain a healthy population that will drive its economic growth, development of new vaccines, drugs, and other health tools are paramount. And that's where research and development come in as the bedrock of such venture.
Talk of nation building in the health sector, this is very key. You use it to be able to modify modes of treatment of existing diseases. Re-emerging diseases, you'll be able to use that to find out the best measure and the best ways of tackling them when they come.
Nigeria's quest to have viable medical research and development institutes for promoting national health dates back to 1920, when the Rockefeller Foundation established the Yellow Fever Commission. By 1977, the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research emerged as the only institute specifically dedicated for medical research. Not until the establishment of National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development in 1987. When coronavirus threw the world into pandemonium in 2019, Nigerian researchers were expected to put on their thinking caps to come up with indigenous pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical solutions to contain the pandemic. The federal government is at the center of it all. The Central Bank of Nigeria in March this year released 253.4 million naira as grant to local researchers to develop a Nigerian vaccine. At a time when the world embraced vaccine nationalism.
At least one vaccine that's been developed against COVID-19 and they are going to be undergoing clinical trials before they can be used. There are many traditional healers who have also offered us their creations that they say can cure COVID-19. Some of them we have subjected to tests. Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to pinpoint any yet that has a particular efficacy.
The Nigerian Institute of Medical Research is among the over 100 laboratories with state-of-the-art technology for conducting COVID-19 tests. On its part, the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development picked up our phytomedicinal research already under development and repurposed it for coronavirus treatment. This is besides working with universities to run clinical trials for some conventional medicines such as chloroquine and azithromycin, seen as a treatment option.
Two of those products, Nepremion and Nepremion Plus, that boosts the immune system, have now been listed by NAFDAC. We were one of the first to concept produce locally manufactured hand sanitizers, eucalyptus from Kaduna State as well, to give it that aroma, so as to encourage people to use the hand sanitizer.
A working collaboration with National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research Development Agency. We are able to come out with some innovative equipment. First, for environmental disinfection, public offices and gathering disinfection devices, automatic temperature sensing devices, some disinfectants. World Health Organization sent down from their headquarters to us a mechanical ventilator we requested to produce exactly the same type through the reverse engineering and produce its electronic version. The equipment are still going through clinical trials.
The National Ivory Tiles are also dedicated to COVID-19 research.
We conducted a survey and found out the attitude of the people within the metropolis towards the preventive measures of COVID, particularly when it comes to regular washing of hands, when it comes to use of face masks, and when it comes to use of other facilities that will social distances and things like that. And we analyzed the result and forwarded same to the appropriate authorities for use.
An observation in the world of research, however, is that a wide range of developed products are lined up on the shelves waiting to be commercialized for use. That, I understand, is the responsibility of industrialists and manufacturers.
Very well then, Chimdima, Nigerian researchers are breaking new grounds. We'll get there soon. Thanks a lot. That concludes the correspondence this week. Thanks a lot for being part of it. Join us again next week, same time on another edition. And a quick reminder that COVID-19 is still around us. Continue to abide by government's regulations and safety protocols. And more importantly, get vaccinated. Take responsibility and stay safe. And don't forget to be a star with the NTA. Be part of the campaign against rape and rapists. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, hindsight, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith on the floor of the sports parliament. Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA. Keep a date with the parliamentarians.
The eyes have it.
Nigerian handmade beaded necklaces have come in many different designs and styles. Some are plain strings of beads without any additional details, using brooches, pendant gemstones, or even crystals. These kinds of details make the African and Nigerian handmade beaded jewelry look more authentic and visually attractive. In the world of fashion, beads have evolved over the years, coming out in more fashionable ways. Women have been known to be associated with different kinds of accessories from ages, and today the use of beads have even become more trending, particularly those of handmade bead necklaces. Now get thrilled with some of the latest trends associated with beads. Nigerian handmade beaded necklaces are truly trending.
Did you get to see the way Telebabadu pulls this? Don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, child, and issue. The idea that is can do more with less people.
If we have a better way of addressing these issues, taking care of.
Congratulations, you were able to sign Timo Werner from RB Leipzig.
So you take water before your workout.
People have used their phone, using TikTok to do this like
Should I go for test?
A lot of people don't even have resources.
I'm Cecil, and this is the Medley Show on NTA.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo urges young Nigerians to get involved in politics.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss Anambra governorship election. Barely 2 weeks to the Anambra state governorship election, a debate on the way out of the current insecurity in that state is raging.
And observers insist the current threat posed by the sit-at-home order issued by the Independent People of Biafra, IPOB, as well as killings and kidnappings by unknown gunmen could adversely affect voter turnout on election day.
Now, the actions of political parties and their candidates are also other sources of concern. The current level of cross-carpeting litigations, offshore campaigns are among a few issues that may also affect the election on November 6th.
Indeed, Kiran, and these issues have made many insist that INEC should postpone the election. They cite the provisions of Section 26 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended, which gives room for the possibility of rescheduling a governorship election under extraordinary circumstances as grounds for the postponement of the election. Now, INEC has, however, maintained that postponing the election is not an option, especially after so much planning has gone into the process.
Exactly, and so far, 18 political parties are taking part in the poll. Candidates for the 3 major political parties include Valentine Ozibo of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Andy Uba for the All Progressives Congress, APC, while Chukwuma Soludo is the candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA. Is indeed going to be a very tough one.
Yeah, going to be a tough one. And these developments inform our focus on Anambra governorship election. We welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I'm Kirian Umayo. Thanks also for joining us this morning. And as always, we shall bring you some of our complimentary segments in the course of today's package of Good Morning Nigeria. Now, let's get some news items from our colleague, Adegunloye Dennis.
Yes, good morning, Kieran, and good morning, Jume. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Nigeria and Turkey have resolved to deepen the long-lasting relations between the two countries in various fields for enhanced benefits to their people and economies. This came to light after the high-level bilateral engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Abuja.
Üretim merkezi konumundaki Nijerya ile
Nigeria holds the manufacturing position of the entire continent, and our trade volume between the two nations reached $2 billion last year. Thus, Nigeria became our most outstanding and the biggest trade partner in the sub-Saharan Africa.
Meanwhile, 7 major agreements and memoranda of understanding have been signed between Nigeria and the Turkish Republic. These are in the areas of energy, defense, industry, mining and hydrocarbons. The agreement signing ceremony was the high point of the 2-day visit to Nigeria by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has received her counterpart, the Turkish First Lady, who accompanied her on her husband, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, on a state visit to Nigeria. Issues of mutual benefit, such as education of the girl child, took center stage during their meeting.
I appreciate her visit, and the visit will extend or strengthen the good relationship between Turkey and Nigeria.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says young people in Nigeria must get involved in politics, explaining that the way to transform society is largely dependent on the actions and decisions of those who occupy public offices. The Vice President said this at a virtual forum where he interacted with Nigerian fellows of the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders. The interaction included a Q&A session where questions ranging from education, health, and youth engagement issues were posed to the Vice President. African nations, and especially Nigeria, the Vice President noted, cannot afford to have their best minds and most committed social activists remain only in the civil space, stressing that youths have to get involved in politics to be in the position to make the difference on the scale that is required. Speaking further about the potentials of young Nigerians to affect the desired change in their communities, the Vice President described the efforts of young African innovators as Africa's most exciting story, the story of a present and future that could be steered by the continent's incredibly talented and optimistic young men and women. The fellowship is the flagship program of the U.S. government's Young African Leader Initiative, YALI. The nation's security architecture is gaining more momentum in the containment of terrorism and other high-profile crimes threatening public peace in parts of the country. This is coming as Nigeria strengthens its military relations with the Netherlands on the implementation of the National Action Plan on Preventive and Counter-Violence Extremism.
Resilience against violent extremism perpetrated by terrorists. So the whole essence is to equip our members of the steering committee to be conversant with the various factors which is driving violent extremism in the country.
Boko Haram has reduced tremendously over the last 15 years. So there's certain programs, very specific programs that target communities, that target potential members and those who feel attracted. And so there's a lot of those programs that have been implemented.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has restated that the claimed massacre of Nigerians during the nationwide mass protest against police brutality was false. The minister was speaking at a media briefing tagged Phantom Massacre in Abuja.
In a report currently running on the network, CNN brazenly and unashamedly held on to its flawed narrative, relying on an unidentified mother whose son was reportedly shot dead at Lekki, but without any convincing evidence of who shot him dead.
And in Abuja, several persons embarked on a rally to mark the one-year anniversary of the NSAS protest. The group had converged on the Unity Fountain, unhindered by security agencies. Moments later, they left the location, attempting to breach traffic and security as they marched towards the three-arms zone. The diversion was, however, met with stiff resistance from the Joint Security Task Force operations right in front of the Federal Ministry of Justice.
For police welfare, the congestion of police cells, punishment of the policemen who were involved in SARS atrocities.
Meanwhile, an anti-NSAS group held a similar procession at the Unity Fountain to decry what the group described as a politically sponsored attempt to blackmail the Buhari administration. Meanwhile, the NSAS one-year anniversary rally was staged peacefully in other states of the country with the presence of security personnel to prevent hoodlums from hijacking them. Lagos, Ondo, Adamawa, Edo and Ekiti states, among others, saw young Nigerians showing up in solidarity.
We need a flourishing nation. We need a nation with job employment.
Officer that was found wanting should be prosecuted. Those that are recommended for compensation should be given compensation.
Why do we want justice? Why do we want justice?
They are working on that, but from whichever way that the government wants to do it, because these are legitimate demands.
Latest figures by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, indicates there are 167 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. A breakdown indicates that Taraba State recorded 109 new cases, followed by Lagos recording 17, Plateau recorded 16, Bauchi 11, Rivers 6 and Delta 3. Both Akwa Ibom and Imo states recorded 2 cases each, while a single case was recorded in Bayelsa State. The 167 new cases bring the total number of confirmed cases to 209,713, out of which 197,724 have been treated and discharged. The death toll currently stands at 2,840. Well, that's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues after this break with Kieran and Jume. Good morning.
Since coming into office in 2015, the Buhari administration has recorded unprecedented achievements in all sectors, especially in the provision of infrastructure, which is the key to economic growth. Never in the history of this country has any administration done so much with so little. I recall that when this administration came into the office, the price of crude oil, which provides for 80% of Nigeria's budgetary revenues and 95% of foreign exchange earning, dropped drastically, thus reducing the amount of resources available to the federal government. In spite of this, the administration has continued apace with massive infrastructure developments.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
There are certain moments in the day when I need my me time to just unwind and indulge.
What is this?
The Cadbury goodness is in every pack of Cadbury 3-in-1 hot chocolate, making you feel cheerful and pleasant.
Now available in 30 grams and 450 grams.
Shola, come and help me. You need to learn.
But I'm more interested in drawing.
How are you going to be part of the business if you don't learn?
You just don't understand.
Morning. Anyone for some Lipton?
The rich taste of Lipton awakens body and mind.
Let me have a look at your drawings. Son, these designs are amazing.
Lipton Yellow Label Tea. Awaken to what really matters.
Two entertaining sides will be looking to get the results when they meet at Ellen Road. Who will come out on top? This Saturday, it's Leeds United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA, Silverbird Television and Sporty.com from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu, empowered by Integral.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria. Business news is next.
As the federal government continues to gainfully engage Nigerians through various programs, development experts have enjoined all tiers of government to make small and medium enterprises a priority. According to experts, this will generate wealth and create employment for the populace. They want the private sector to partner the federal government to build a strong economy.
This is one of our signature programs that is targeted at building the capacity of youth towards giving them the necessary skills that will make them stand on their own. Gone are the days that you look out for the 8-to-5 job. This is the day for innovate. We're in the age of innovation, creativity, and that's what the program is out to get from these core members.
Taking a cue from the Asian tigers, who have used SMEs to strengthen their economies, they emphasized that SMEs have all it takes to stabilize Nigeria's business environment. With business news, Alika Opanachi Arwa.
Thank you indeed for that business package. Next is newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Toby is in the studio. Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Jume. Good morning, Kirian.
Bayo, it's good to see you.
Welcome after a long time. Good to see you. Good morning, Nigeria.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, Jume, let me kickstart with the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper, above the name flag of the Nation newspaper, 888 killed, 2,553 abducted in Kaduna within 9 months. Details on page 4 of the Nation. Nigeria, Turkey signed pact on mining defense and others. $5 billion trade volume planned. That's on page 30. Gunmen abduct 30 passengers in Niger State. PDP governors OK Anyanwu as secretary. The two stories are on pages 4 and 7 of the Nation. Now below the nameplate, Anambra 2021, I won't discriminate, says Ozigbo. Anambra Central to vote for APC. Physically challenged lulled INEC's special attention. That's on page 27. The CBN targets 75,000 yearly jobs for young graduates. Guidelines for between 5 million and 25 million loans out. Now the lead story on the Nation, psychiatric drug tests mandatory for security men. Minister leads NSAS response measures, protests in Lagos, FCT, Ibadan, Oshobo, Benin, Jos, Akure, Enugu, and Ilori. The story is on page 8 of the Nation newspaper. Jimmy.
Yeah, and from the leadership newspaper, just below the masthead, we have FG budgets 2,178 for each citizen's health care in 1 year. With kickers, 20 years after, health budget falls short of 15% Abuja declaration. Sector got 4.75% in 2019, 3.83% in 2020, 4.18% in 2021. And experts identify corruption, lack of accountability as major pitfalls in sector. The picture story there, you see President Muhammadu Buhari greeting the Turkish president yesterday at the presidential villa in Abuja. Bandits kidnap 30 passengers in Niger. You find details on page 6. Nigeria-Turkey science pact on energy defense industry. Details on page 6. Kinetic approach not enough to address security threats. That's coming from the National Security Advisor. That's on page 8. 888 killed, 2,553 kidnapped in Kaduna in 9 months. That's quite a scary statistics there. Protesters defy police, mark NSAS anniversary. With a rider, Lekki killings remain phantom massacre. That's attributed to the federal government. DPR, PPRA, PEF. FG Dow's workers' fair of job losses. You find details on page 19.
Okay, let me quickly run through Daily Trust before we bring in Bio. Below the nameplate, after Daily Darling, notorious bandit releases 30 Yauri school abductees. That's on page 4. Lead story, NSAS 1 year after, no evidence of Lekki massacre. CNN, Amnesty, that's 3 riders to that. CNN, Amnesty should tender apology. That's according to the federal government. Rights group fails to respond to Daily Trust evidence request. And PDP kicks as police disperse demonstrators in Abuja and Lagos. Declare bandits as terrorists, El-Rufai tells Buhari on page 6. Nigeria, Turkey signed 8 pacts. We've read that in other newspapers on page 18. On Daily Trust, then Ochi Doma, Nasarawa monarchs condole autumn, that's on page 6. Pressure mounts on Buni to sanction Shekarao, Amosu, Arebosola, and others. Details on page 26. Right.
Yes. Thank you, Kyrie. You mentioned the report about the Ochidoma, for which the governor of Benue State is being condoled. There are indications that the demise of the Ochidoma has been announced, but it is expressed as the Ochidoma has gone on hunting expedition. In some of our cultures, traditional rulers or monarchs don't die. In some, they say they ascend into the parapet. In Idoma land, the Ochidoma has gone on a hunting expedition. That is the traditional way expressing the demise. Yes. The visiting President Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey says that terror groups that were behind the 2016 failed coup against his government are active in Nigeria. He called for solidarity with Nigeria to fight terrorism and also consolidate on diplomatic ties with Nigeria that has lasted over 60 years. President Erdogan called for further cooperation in the field of military, defense, and intelligence. Turkey is hoping to expand trade volume with Nigeria from about $2 billion to $5 billion. President Muhammadu Buhari indicated that 8 major agreements, memorandum of understanding, were signed with Turkey yesterday in the area of energy, defense, mining, and the implementation is to commence immediately. The president also said that Turkey has been removed from Nigeria's travel ban list from the successes of the addressing COVID-19 pandemic in that country. This is the second visit of President Erdogan to Nigeria. The story that have dominated all the papers today is the protest marking the 1-year anniversary of the NSA protest or against police brutality. Protesters were peaceful in Ibadan, Federal Capital Territory, and Benin. No protests at Michael Okwara Square in Enugu. In Port Harcourt, there was a candlelight procession. In Lagos, protesters agreed with the police that they will protest in moving vehicles. However, when protesters began to come down from their vehicles, police used tear gas and minimal force to disperse them. Some arrests were made. The police that were browbeaten and low-spirited during the EndSARS protest last year have regained their composure, and they were circumspect yesterday in tackling protesters. Minister of Information has called on the CNN and Amnesty International to apologize to Nigerians over claims of massacre that never occurred. Nevertheless, Amnesty has also asserted that it stands by its claim that 12 persons were killed at Lekki Toll Gate and so others at Alausa in Lagos. There were some cost evaluations. The Nigerian Insurance Association says that over 20 billion worth of claims have been filed to its office. Mr. Ganiu Musa, chairman of the Nigerian Insurance Association, says that 9 billion claims have so far been paid to clients over losses suffered during the protest. It all began in October 3rd last year when a viral video showed an alleged SARS officer killing a young man in Southern Delta, Sapele specifically. In fact, later reports indicated that the young man was not in fact killed. This led to hashtag EndSARS on the social media, and by October 8th, the protests by youths in major state capitals were joined by activists, celebrities, and social media influencers. By 12th of October, protesters made 5 demands. Government indicated acceptance of the demands. 5 days later, they increased the demands to include cost of governance, constitutional reform, educational reform, health reform, youth affairs reform, and public office reform. Thereby, there were protests in 13 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital. Baka sustained the protest through crowdfunding, and another segment described by the BBC report says that protesters used the opportunity to vandalize shops and raid warehouses targeted business operated by prominent politicians. The tumultuous fortnight culminated in the dispersal of protests at Lekki Toll Gate on October 20th, which were widely reported, where it was claimed that 20 persons were massacred. By 27th of October, public houses, including private stores, numbering about 248, had been vandalized. 205 police stations were destroyed. 22 policemen, unfortunately, were killed. 1,596 suspects were arrested, and police were also browbeaten. In the following development, organized private sector through the Nigerian Consulting Employment Association says that they lost cost of materials and items evaluated at 5 trillion. In the National Economic Council of Nigeria directed judicial panels to be appointed and to inquire into police brutality and pay compensation. There were 3,000 petitions that were received. So far, the National Economic Council says that only 28 states established panel and 11 have so far submitted reports. Lagos reported to have paid a compensation of about 420 million so far. Now, citizens have a right to protest, but protest too must not obstruct other people's right. So there's need to have a public order for protest so that people can protest peacefully. They will be escorted by police, and you won't have hoodlums coming to intervene. Let's cite an example. At the inauguration of President Joe Biden in the United States, people indicated their wish to protest. The police approved of it. They indicated protesting on Pennsylvania Avenue, but the police told them because they were expecting guests and it was the route that the president would follow to the White House, they could not grant that. And things went on peacefully. So if people indicate they want to protest, the police should accompany them, in front of them, behind them, to ensure that the protest is peaceful. And protesters must not obstruct other persons.
Yes, of course, it is the right of every citizen to protest, but that has to be done according to the law. I think one unique thing about the analysis of the NSAS saga is the fact that, according to the Minister of Information, there's yet to be proof of massacre at the Lekki toll gate up to this moment. And his request for the Amnesty and CNN to tender an apology is perhaps in the right direction, if you ask me.
Well, the minister says that as far as he is concerned, that massacre they called for was only on the social media because there's no blood and there's nobody to show everywhere. But yesterday, Amnesty also called a press conference to say that they stand by their claim about persons that were killed. Be that as it may, Governor Nasir El-Rufai has asked the federal government to declare bandits in the Northwest as insurgents or terrorists. The governor says that he supports the National Assembly's resolution calling on President to declare bandits as terrorists. He said he had written to the President as far back as 2017 calling for them to be declared as bandits. The Commissioner for Internal Security gave an update of reports, and he said that for the third quarter, that is from the month of July to September alone in Kaduna, as many as 343 persons were killed. 830 persons were abducted, and 210 persons, among the women and minors, were among those that were, I think, that were victims. In a period of 9 months, as many as 888 were killed in Kaduna State, 2,553 were abducted. So he's emphasizing that something has to be done about bandits because bandits are actually causing terror and they should be declared terrorists.
That's 888 Nigerians.
Yes, that were killed in Kaduna State in 9 months.
And
you will recall that the Chief of Defense Staff recently says that the fact that bandits are not considered as terrorists is causing the armed forces restraint so that they don't exceed their guidelines, especially conditions of the armaments.
Some Nigerians think that the mode of operation of the bandits, of course, reflects the fact that they could be referred to as terrorists because of the way they operate. Right? There's nothing terrorists do that these bandits don't do.
Look at this report.
They take over communities.
Look at the report Juma just read about the 30 passengers
kidnapped in Niger State.
How did it happen? The gunmen came onto the highway between Zungeru and Garingabas, and they kept on firing into the air for over 30 minutes. They stopped 3 vehicles, a bus and 2 other vehicles, and moved the persons in those vehicles away into the bush. They have caused terror in that village so that the people in the village could not do anything but just watch them commit their crime.
They came, it was learned that the bandits had 30 motorcycles. So I think there should be a ban on motorcycles because that is their mode of movement.
Yes, and they must have spent a good number of minutes there. He said firing for 30 minutes. It means that the operation may have lasted for even up to an hour without any interruption. Right, and we also learned that the notorious bandit releases 30 Yauri school abductees. That's a very good story. And if that continues, that will be better for it because, of course, the operation of these gunmen, the bandits, is becoming alarming.
If that continues,
at this point
the moment when you talk about continues, they release, then they kidnap again. So it's like a vicious cycle. It just keeps going round and round.
Some good news, however. Super Falcons yesterday defeated the Black Queens of Ghana by 2-0. It is one of the qualifying matches for the AFCON Women African Cup of Nations that is expected to hold next year in Morocco. The Super Falcons are to play the second leg in Accra on Sunday.
I hope they win.
All right, Bayo, let's leave it there. We hope to see you again tomorrow for further analysis on newspaper review. This is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we shall be dealing with that subject matter for today's conversation, and that's the Anambra governorship election. Do stay with us.
NPHCDA commenced Phase 2 vaccination of all persons 18 years and above with safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines approved by WHO and certified by NAFDAC. Special arrangement has been made for staff, their dependents and retirees of ministries, departments and agencies of government, private corporate organizations and non-governmental organizations. To benefit from this special arrangement, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng/corporate vaccination/ to obtain, fill and submit the Google form. NPHCDA will contact you within 48 hours. Protect yourself, your family and your workplace against COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines are free, safe and effective. For further inquiries, call 0700-220-1122 or send a mail to covid19.vaccination@nphcda.gov.ng. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
A new edition of TV Guide is out exclusively with Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State.
Since assuming office, our rescue administration has pursued the path of peace and reconciliation and restored confidence among people of different ethnic, religious, and political persuasions. Peace is back on the plateau. We are building world-class infrastructure in roads and opening up opportunities for innovation.
The edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from entertainment, economy, sports, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up a copy and keep abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Two entertaining sides will be looking to get the results when they meet at Ellen Road. Who will come out on top? This Saturday, it's Leeds United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA, Silverbird Television and Sporties.com from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
You're welcome back, and to begin our discussion on Anambra governorship election, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent Joseph Osen.
November 6, 2021, the people of Anambra State will be going to the poll to elect a new governor who will take over from the incumbent governor, Willie Obiano, serving his second term. Campaigns are ongoing. Preparatory to the election, parties have conducted primaries and candidates emerged. For the three major political parties, Valentine Ozigbo is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Andy Uba for the All Progressives Congress, APC, and Chukwuma Soludo is the candidate of All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA. INEC has also released the final list of contestants, with 18 political parties shortlisted to lock horns for the seat of power. It has expressed readiness to conduct free, fair and credible election despite attacks and destruction of its facilities in the southeast by gunmen. It says the destroyed electoral materials have been replaced.
I am glad to report that we are fully recovered from that attack. All non-sensitive materials have either been procured afresh or sourced from neighboring states and our zonal stores.
Non-sensitive materials distributed to all local government areas and training of officials and ad hoc staff, as well as sensitization of voters, are ongoing. It has gone ahead to paste and present voters' register to the political parties, increase polling units to 5,720 to increase access to all voters, and it is looking forward to electronic transmission of results. Preparations may be in top gear, but the worry of many is the security challenge bedeviling the state and the southeast region in recent times. Some party standard bearers are reported to have carried out campaigns outside the state, and many have lost their lives, while lots of public and private facilities, even that of security formations, have been burned down. Nevertheless, the federal government and INEC are still expressing commitment to conduct the election under heavy security presence. But will this create the enabling environment for a successful exercise and propel voters to participate in the global poll? These and other related issues surrounding the Anambra governorship election will be engaging guests on Good Morning Nigeria.
And with us in the studio to discuss the topic, first let me introduce Victor Aluko. Victor Aluko is the Director, Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. It's good to have you once again.
Thank you. Good morning.
And also here in our studio is a regular guest on this program, Ezenwa Nwago. Ezenwa Nwago is the Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms and convener, Say No Campaign Nigeria. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Let me also welcome Professor Sharif Gali Ibrahim, Associate Professor of International Relations with the Department of Political Science, University of Abuja, Director, Institute for Legislative Studies, University of Abuja. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program where we're discussing a very important issue this morning. Barely 2 weeks now, we'll be talking about Anambra governorship election. Anambra actually is one of the states in Nigeria that has a checkered election history. And so it's a tough terrain for not just the umpire, but also politicians as well. Now, INEC has met a number of times, and they deliberated on a wide range of issues, including preparation for the conduct of Anambra November 6 governorship election. The question that will come to mind is how prepared is INEC for this election in terms of logistics, in terms of personnel to execute the project, and of course security. So let's hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can categorically say that we are, if we're going to put figures to it, we are like 98% ready. The other 2% will be for final activities in the next 2 weeks. From our experience, it's just a routine thing, conducting all these elections. We already finished with the voters register. As you know, about 2 weeks ago, we gave the political parties the soft copy of the register as required by law. That's after we finished with the continuous voter registration, cleaning up of the data. So we presented there with the register. So the register is ready for the election. And we're already training our officials because we have to train the electoral officers, assistant electoral officers, supervisory presiding officers. We've done all that. And tomorrow and Saturday, we'll ramp up training of the presiding officers and the assistant presiding officers. As you know, every polling unit will have a presiding officer presiding there with 3 assistant presiding officers. So we will ramp up the training of presiding officers, assistant presiding officers this weekend. And with that, we'll be done with training. And of course, you know, the training is important because we're introducing a new accreditation equipment. And of course, we need to train them about the procedure for manning that particular equipment. That's the biometric voter accreditation system, the equipment for it. So the training is quite okay. It has been very successful. Our staff and the ad hoc staff we have sourced, they are learning fast, and we believe that we will not have issues on election day with the type of training we're giving them. It's a sort of specialized training. And apart from training, we've batched all the non-sensitive materials and distributed them. As I said, this thing is like routine. We batched all those non-sensitive materials. We've distributed them. The sensitive materials always come near election day. Those are the ones we keep in the central bank. You know them. The ones we call sensitive. Those are the ones we cannot just release before the time that's before the election day like that, so that they'll be well secured. Apart from that, we've been meeting stakeholders. We've been having our sensitization activities. Even though you may not hear so much noise because of the situation, but a lot is going on. within the communities in Anambra State. And so we are preparing quite well. And everything to me, it's okay. And I believe we'll have a good election. Thank you.
I'm still going to stay with you briefly. You've talked about replacement of materials, training, retraining of your staff. But there have been calls for postponement of the election. Where are you on that?
We are preparing to conduct the election. We are not preparing to postpone.
There have been calls for you to postpone the election because of the insecurity in the area that is building up. It's 15 days to the election.
The insecurity issue, we are not in charge of security. We have the security agencies. It's their job, it's their duty to provide security. And they have assured us. We had an emergency meeting with the security agencies, the members of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. They assured us, and they are reassuring us, that adequate security will be provided so that people will have the confidence to vote. We don't want an election where people will not come and vote. And security is an important issue when it comes to voter participation. When there's insecurity, you have what we call voter apathy. But the security agencies have assured us, and with what we have seen, there seems to be a lot of progress in terms of security. And with our experiences in Anambra too, we'll be going in and out of Anambra. What we have seen sort of reassures us that we'll be able to hold a good election. As we said, we are preparing to conduct the election, not to postpone the election.
All right, we are still with you. You have raised a number of issues about your preparedness for this election. And my colleague just raised the issue of insecurity in Anambra State. We have the spate of killings and, of course, attacks on political rallies. We had one in Newi, we had one with Abuja's campaign team, and, of course, some deaths in Anambra State. One of the most recent one, actually, is the death of the husband of the former Minister of Information, late Dora Akunyili. Is there any kind of apprehension? You say you go in and out of Anambra State with respect to all these spate of attacks in the build-up of this election. Do you think that such will have a negative impact on the election day?
Any insecurity will have an impact on any activity, whether it's election, whether it's business, social, economic activities. Any form of insecurity in any location will have an effect. But what I'm saying is that with what we have seen and the assurances given to us by security agencies, we believe that the election should be successful. And you made allusion to the high-profile assassination before. After that, we had that emergency meeting with the security agencies at the highest level. And after that, we received the assurance that the security situation will actually be tackled. And I believe they are tackling it.
Okay, thank you. Let me bring in Ezinwa Nwako. You're always in the thick of election matters across the country, and now Anambra election is coming up. It's a few days to it. And what do you think, in your opinion, the scenario would look like on the 6th of November?
Thank you. The scenario would be that the people of Anambra will come out and vote. And why I say that is because the overtly concern for insecurity is actually more outside of Anambra State than in Anambra State. And it has something to do with the nature and complexion of elections generally. I was making a joke with the director when we were sitting out there, and I said, 2011, this 2011 election, we've had 2011 election. Oh, this 2015 election will determine whether Nigeria will. We are over that. This 2019 it will be explosive. There won't be election. We have had it. Preceding Edo State, preceding Ondo, preceding Osun, what was the climate? What was the temperature in the media? So if we gauge election on the basis of this a peep into these antecedents that I'm talking about, you will see that there are 21 local governments in Anambra State. You can identify, it's easy to circle the places where this crisis is dominant. The other people, the other places where these challenges are, they will have elections. The security will then be able to contain the very area. And all you need to do is to look at Anambra State very more deeply in terms of its history. If you remember, 2003 up to 2001, 2003, you ask yourself, why did the Anambra State government set up Anambra Vigilante Service, which you call the Bakassi Boys? What was the underlying reasons? If you have an answer to that, you also know that the security agencies should be able to identify the hotspots. And I'm sure they've done some risk, and even our sister organizations, Clean Foundation and the rest, have done a risk analysis mapping that can help security agencies to deal with those issues. And then when people talk about over-securitization can also bring confidence to the voter that I am protected, I am secured, I can't do that. So I see my work as inspiring confidence in the voters. If the people of Anambra State want election, nobody can stop them. Not anybody can stop them from having an election. And let me tell you, what is in contention is a over 240 billion allocation budget to that state. And election is about the control of resources. The politicians who have a stake in wanting to control that resources have a responsibility to rein in. Because if they don't, what will be the consequence? The consequence will be that you have a sole, if elections don't hold, you have, what do you call it, state of emergency. And nobody in Anambra State wants that kind of scenario. So both the traditional institution, all the stakeholders in Anambra have a responsibility to ensure that the election holds on November 6th. And that is why I'm confident that, we will have elections. And much more so, Anambra does not have a history. And Chief Kirian did put a handle on that. It has a history of terribly low turnout in terms of, even in so-called good times. No governor of that state has been elected by 300,000 people.
Why is that?
Which is quite true.
Why is that?
No. So even in the preceding elections, you have 22% turnout. 22% turnout is the highest. So there are deeper issues in terms of how the people themselves see government. Okay, how do they look at government? What is government to them? So the civic engagement that is going on in Anambra is aimed at ensuring that, look, you understand what this thing is about. You're playing five-a-side on election day, you're not being interested, does not mean that the government will not emerge. If you were in Anambra in 2017, and I was there, I had the opportunity of being on radio, the scenario looked like, there won't be elections, this, that. And in fact, I was on radio because I was saying what I'm saying here in 2017. People were insulting me that, you blah, blah, blah. That election has held. The man who ran election in 2017 is handing over in the next 5 months. Okay? So for me, therefore, is to say, like I've said elsewhere, the people of Anambra have a responsibility to surprise Nigerians by ensuring that they come out and vote and determine who will run their state for the next 4 years. And you ask me why. Why is because there is no attachment. After elections, the people have no connection with governance. They are not interested in the budget. They don't care about who is building road because they build road by themselves most of the time. They provide water by themselves. So they see themselves as government. Okay? But what that does is that those who now have responsibility, who have the custody of public trust on their behalf, are now lots. Nobody challenges them. Nobody engages them. If the citizens start engaging them, they will be more interested in outcomes that come from those elections.
Okay, then we're going to come back to you. As a matter of fact, the main reason for discussing the issue of the possibility of not holding election or people not turning out for the election is because of the current scenario in the southeast of Nigeria, where people are prepared to obey the sit-at-home order by IPOB. As a matter of fact, some people even by themselves try to enforce the sit-at-home, as the case may be. All right, let's bring in Professor Gali Ibrahim on this. What is your reading of Anambra elections? Now, having listened to Ezema Wago and first speaker here from INEC, what do you make of the scenario and what could play out on that election day?
Thank you so much. To build up on where my friends here, have already built up, is for us to understand the political environment in Anambra State. Talking about the security issue, which they have actually digested, you understand that even if it is going to be in Sambisa forest, that the government want to conduct elections, it will be very easy for a government to do that if the political feasibility is there. It's a matter of clearance, paving a way, into that particular place and make sure that elections are freely and duly conducted. And a state like Anambra State, even within that particular geopolitical zone, Anambra is very significant, because it is a kind of a determinant, area for what will actually unfold in terms of how the 2023 elections will be there, which political party is going to emerge, which political party will actually be so supportive even to the federal structure. So having said that, you also look at the issue of what Ezen was said, what actually contribute to low voter turnout in the state. You cannot actually jettison the issue of political apathy. And this is characterized by the nature of businessmen, who believe that my vote doesn't count. So why should I waste my time to go there? After all, if I miss my business today, who will actually complement it for me? So this is one major issue. Then secondly, looking at the recent happenings, in the state, the attacks, the killings, many have already left, their local government or even the flashpoint of such attacks and killings. They have moved to the neighboring state or even far away. And this comes as a result of the basic consideration to life. Why? Because life is very important. I cannot actually risk my life, for what is actually happening. And people will not actually consider elections coming, because if your life cannot be secure and your property, then there is no actually reason to continue to be in such an environment. So that is why some people have already moved. And the issue of expectation, what people expect, as we talk about violence as well as the perpetual killing, then people will try to actually exit, such an environment where without me, nothing will actually stop. So this kind of attitude must have been developed, by some of the electorate. So, but the government, I believe, 33,000 security personnel to be deployed, some helicopters that will actually provide surveillance as well as patrol during the exercise. And I think due to the state and national interest, because we have incumbency factor here, the state want to produce a candidate, a governor from its own political party, which is Abuja. And the federal also want to bring its APC member, to emerge victorious in this particular trend. So I think the security structure will be well, structured, and it will be also strengthened, during the conduct of the elections. Then apart from this is the issue of INEC itself, which we've heard from the director, how well prepared INEC is, as well as the non-sensitive materials initially destroyed. You heard it from the INEC chairman. Also, these have been replaced. But there is one major issue, and I don't really know why the procrastination, in making sure that political parties provide their agent for these particular elections. And that is why INEC issued a caveat, giving them, a timeline that failure to submit the list of to upload the names of your, party agent, into the portal, that will actually result in a kind of a punitive measure. So I think the political parties, should have done this, even though it is not easy or it is so cumbersome for you to determine trusted individuals that could actually serve into these particular portfolios. But I think the political parties should have done this, before now. Then another major issue is the political parties, concern, in the elections. We're seeing the APC candidate, the YPP candidate, the ABGA candidate, as well as the PDP candidate as the major stakeholders, in this particular electioneering process. Also, as I earlier mentioned, that we're going to see a drastic contest because of the incumbent factor, which is the ABGA party, as well as the APC. I think all others should actually serve as opposition, but the strongest opposition to this particular election is the APC itself, which wishes to actually take over the control of the state in terms of the gubernatorial seat. And this apart, we also look at the candidate, apart from the political parties. What have they actually offered to the people? What are their manifestos? Which programs, did they wish to organize, in order to develop Anambra as a state? We have seen the release of a manifesto by Professor Soludo, wishing to actually make 1,000 people millionaires in Anambra State. And that is why Ifeanyi Uba said this is an empty manifesto. So, but when you look at it, when you bring or you make 1,000 people millionaires in a state, what happens to the rest of the people? What will you make them, to be? I'm not really against the promise, whatever. And making 1,000 people millionaires doesn't mean that that will actually bring development to a state. Well, why? Because you could actually
Prof, sorry, we're going to pause you there because you are almost campaigning for the candidates. I think they have the wherewithal to do this campaign themselves. But we've taken your point, really, with respect to what should be the right course to take as a governorship candidate who wishes to govern his state. You have to reel out your manifesto. The manifesto has to be has to have a human face. People have to identify with it before they can vote for you. If we get to the aspect of discussing the electioneering campaign in Anambra State, we could bring all that up. Right. Thank you. Let's bring in again Victor Aluko, Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. INEC is introducing a new technology into this election. And you've just informed us that many have been trained for them to be able to, utilize this facility, for the election. Now, what are the risk factors that you could say may perhaps bring about failure or near failure of the process during the election? And if you envisage such, what should be the antidote, for that? Because expectedly, technology really is good, but sometimes it can also misbehave.
What I want to say is that if we go down memory lane, you remember we were using smart card readers for accreditation. The smart card readers were configured to verify fingerprints of the voter. What we did was just to replace the smart card reader with the new voter accreditation system, which will not only verify your fingerprints, we also verify your face. That is, from one single verification system, we migrated to double, and that's why we call it bimodal. And when you are bringing in an electronic equipment, of course, as you said, you could have problems of failure on the field. You could have problems of malfunctioning, even human errors. But I want to say that we piloted this BVAS equipment in the Soko South constituency by-election in Delta State not long ago. That was last month. And the accreditation success was almost 98%. Almost 98% accreditation success. And in that same constituency, the last time we conducted election, it was a mere 33% success. So we piloted this equipment, and it was extremely successful. That gives us the confidence that we will have the same success rate, 33% to about 98%. See the jump in the rate of success.
But are you considering the fact that you are going to cover a larger space in terms of Anambra being a whole state? You are talking about a constituency election, which is in a constituent.
Yes.
Right, but Anambra is
large. I agree with you that we will be having a larger territory to cover. But the important thing is, once we piloted, we were able to identify the issues, and it was successful. So we believe it will also be successful. And we have all our engineers on ground. You know, we have so many ICT experts in INEC. In fact, the system was developed by our own in-house engineers. It was the ICT programming, everything was designed by our engineers. So it's an in-house something. So what I'm just trying to say is that we have our people who will be on the ground. We have the equipment. We have spares. And so just the way the whole thing was before, once we move to the field, if you have places where you have problems and you need to replace the equipment, we have spares. And we have places where the engineers need to quickly do some work on the system, we will do. So we are ready for all this. No, as INEC, we had a lot of experience with using smart card readers all over the country for presidential elections, for general elections. So when we developed this one, we were able to test it, and we were all on ground to see how it will work, and it worked perfectly. In fact, we were surprised with the success rate. So
okay, let's take a step back. The primaries that was scheduled and weeks of litigation and conflicting court rulings over the primary results, especially in the APC, which INEC called for intervention by the Nigerian Bar Association. But still, litigation is still ongoing. How do you do that?
Litigations are part of the electoral process. We are not in control of all these issues. It's for the political parties, for the candidates to do all that themselves and the judiciary. But what we are saying is it will not have an effect on our own election. It's for the parties to determine their candidates, and they have done so. We already released a list of candidates for all the parties. That's already done. So if there is any litigation anywhere, it's between them. It's between in terms of nomination and all those stuff, the whole thing will sort itself out. It will play itself out. We are not in control of that process, and it will not affect our own preparations for the election.
All right, as a moment ago, INEC has secured uncommon support for electronic transmission of results. And of course, INEC has also said that they are going to practice that in Anambra State. And they're going to use the device to upload polling unit level results to ease their control.
Result viewing portal.
Exactly. And that is, of course, putting the process in a cyberspace, which could be vulnerable. There are experts in hacking. There are experts who can, interrupt or disrupt the elections in terms of election transmission, result transmission to the central portal. Do you see that as a healthy development?
Well, I think INEC has earned the bragging rights in terms of its push to digitalize the electoral process, minimize human processes in elections. But I've always personally been concerned about the exuberance that I see about the outcomes. And the reason I worry is because as beautiful as the smart card reader was, it was subverted. It was deliberately subverted, both through collusion, community collusion, so how that will be eliminated is also of concern to me. And what do I mean by that? If you get out of Oka, for instance, and you are going to Nibo and the riverine areas and all of those, when community colludes with politically exposed persons and even officials to put aside this process, create emergencies. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Create emergencies and then decide that they need to move ahead. And sometimes we have seen that happen. So I am thinking more in terms of how do we get communities to understand that when we take out a lot of human processes from the election, we up the integrity of our elections. So it's not so much about what INEC is doing, it's more about what the actors, the political actors, the politicians, their political parties and their candidates, what are they studying? Because that has been the challenge in Nigeria. You bring a process, they deliberately work to undermine it, okay? And then the director was talking about Isoko and all that. Isoko is a by-election, all attention was there, people. But in Anambra, you have riverine communities, hugely riverine communities. You have far-flung, backwater communities in which the searchlight. And then most times we also are very arrogant about internet penetration. And my sense is that it's not as much as we say, because if you travel most of those places. So we need to be able to say oversight, much more oversight in terms of ensuring that most of what you say, the RATAC, you are talking, the technicians who you deploy most of the times, the emergencies that are created is that between the time they come, the people, the pressure that the voters themselves, the electorates put on the officials, make them sometimes abandon those everything you have laid out. Are we going to accept those as are there going to be consequences for abandoning the process that is laid out? Those are some of the questions that needs to be answered, going forward. So I agree with you that there are challenges, but that is not sufficient to stop us from enjoying, first and foremost, the whole idea of shifting from a lot of manualization to technology. And I think that for me is key. And that's why I said INEC, the current commission should end that bragging right. There is a lot of push to technologize. There's a lot of push to open up the electoral process in a way. But the challenge for me has been the actors, and I mean the politicians and their candidates who work tirelessly to subvert and undermine these processes.
As in, we're talking about consequences and challenges in the Anambra election and the whole electoral process in Nigeria. Let me join Sharif. Sharif, I'm still going to talk about litigations, judgments, and a fixed date for December 20th for the APC candidates who have gone to court, George Mogalu. Are we looking at a Zamfara situation now if, at the end of the day, on the 20th of December, a different judgment is given?
Yes, of course. Just as the director, Luko, said earlier, that litigation is a continuous process. It is never definitive, in the electoral process. After the conduct of the elections, parties will still go to court, candidates will still go to court. When the winner is also declared, it will continue. We've seen situations in which leaders who have emerged, have spent a significant period, in office. And later on, you see a judgment, comes, against them. And we've seen that, not only within the executive framework, even in the senatorial as well as other legislative framework. So I think we cannot actually zero out all these particular scenarios because it is of a continuous process. And even now there are cases on the ground. But as he made mention of, the parties have submitted, list of candidates, and that is what INEC is actually going to work with. Then apart from this, I also wanted to touch on what my brother Ezinwa said about the digitization of the electoral process. You see, there are risks in flying an aircraft, but that has not actually stopped people from flying. There are also risks, in driving automobiles. That has not stopped people, driving cars. There are risks attached to businesses, but people overlook such risks in order to actually progress. So there might be risk, in this particular, electronic transmission of our results. But the only victory that has actually happened to democracy in Nigeria is this particular accountable way of transmission of results. I think Anambra is a testing ground. If it becomes successful, I think it will be a good omen for 2023. So therefore, it's something that the people of Nigeria, the electorate, should actually jubilate upon, because it's something that was on the verge of diversion and subversion. But it becomes a victory, for democracy in Nigeria, no matter how enormous the challenge is. But if we have a kind of transparent election, in the country, I think that will be a significant point in the political journey of the country. So I think we must not actually emphasize and continue to look at the challenges, because we have never experimented it. And if we're experimenting it, we should experiment it with good hope. And the issue of the process of transmission also, since INEC is deploying the bimodal way of validation and accreditation of voters, there should be also a bimodal or also a multimodal way, of transmitting these particular elections using different processes and ways of making sure that if one area is actually being compromised, then other areas will actually gather and bring a kind of reliable data, of the outcome of such elections. So I think the issue of litigation, it will continue even after swearing in. So it's not a new thing in the political journeys and practice of Nigeria. And technology should always be embraced, because miniature states in Europe and Asia have actually adopted this particular process of digital as well as electronic transmission of results. So we shouldn't actually try to be less progressive. We shouldn't deter ourselves, from accepting changes and modernity in our political journeys. So if we do this, I think democracy will actually thrive in the country.
All right, Mr. Luko, Ezenwa raised an important, issue concerning the use of this new device. I am not in doubt of the capacity or the capability of your engineers, who developed the device you are going to use in Anambra State for this election. But I'm more concerned about ensuring that if there is any subversion of the process, that you have what it takes to stop that from affecting the final result of this election. When you are transmitting results, is on the airwave. It can be intercepted. It can be interrupted. It happens in the US and other major countries who even have better technology than we do. So what does INEC have to fight this in case it happens? Because just as everyone said, look, there are Nigerians who have just sitting down and thinking on how to subvert this process. Because the Anambra election, you may say it's an easygoing election, but Anambra election may not be a do or die affair, but it's something close to that. Because the persons concerned are not just young politicians, right? And even when they are young, they are being backed by persons who have been in the business for a very long time. So it's going to be a Herculean task, really, conducting this election from all indications. So what does INEC have, to fight back in case there is any subversion of the process?
Let me say that there's a relationship between the elections we conducted in Edo and Ondo last year and the election we will conduct in Anambra next month. Edo is not bigger than, Anambra is not bigger than Ondo or Edo in terms of size. In fact, Ondo and Edo are more stretched out. Ondo has riverine areas, very, very serious riverine areas near the sea, more than Anambra. So what I'm trying to say is that as a commission, we have a lot of experience in managing elections in all these terrains. And we should understand there's a difference between transmission of results and what we're talking about. For the transmission of results we are talking about, the law is, we are still expecting the law. The National Assembly has agreed, but it has to be signed into law for it to become law. What we're talking about is the INEC result viewing portal. That is, from the polling unit, we have the capability and capacity to project the result from the polling units, and there are 5,720 polling units, to our result viewing portal, where people can see the result. For us, it's a measure of control. We allow other people to see the result. The political parties, the candidates, can view the result. That is, once we finish election at the polling unit and the presiding officer concludes his work, he scans that, he produces an image of it, and projects it to our portal. The reason for this is that, before people talk about all sorts of things happening between the polling units and on the RA collation centers. But once you have the image of the result from all these units, then it becomes very difficult for anybody to engage in any fraud. Now, so it's a matter of control. So there's a difference between transmission of election results as a big issue and the INEC result viewing portal, which we're talking about. So people should understand. And we are saying that the same transmission of election results system we use in Edo and Ondo, we will use it also this time around. Once the BVAS equipment is meant for accreditation. It's meant for accreditation of voters. And also, we have that capacity to also forward that result as we did before. Not only in Edo and Ondo, we conducted 6 senatorial elections where we used the result viewing portal. We conducted about 3 federal constituency seats, and including 1 councillorship in the Federal Capital Territory here. We use the same, I don't want to use the word transmission of results. We were forwarding the results. We are forwarding the results to INEC result viewing portal that allows people to be able to see the result that was arrived at the polling unit. And that's what I'm saying we will do. For transmission of election results, which is a big thing, we're expecting the law. So it's good to understand. There may be a sort of relationship between the use of that technology and the bigger thing we're expecting. But I'm saying that in terms of managing that technology, in terms of fear of hacking, all those ones, we were able to go through it, through that problem in 2 states that are as big as Anambra, if not bigger. And with that experience, we overcome any problem that will arise. Sometimes we do not reveal our strategies for these, because it's technical. We don't like to maybe reveal the ICT strategies, because if you go for football as a coach, you don't reveal all your strategies, before the match. So we have our capacity to deal with the problems that can arise in terms of anybody trying to hack, in terms of anybody trying to do anything. And of course, it's not an easy thing to hack. It's not easy, because anybody that is preparing, we too are preparing. And that's why I say we have a lot of ICT persons that will be on ground from the headquarters, from Anambra State, from neighboring states. We normally deploy en masse. Every local government will have its own retinue of ICT experts. The 21 local governments will have ICT persons on ground. And of course, within the same local government, anywhere there's any problem, you can easily access. They'll be moving around, waiting for any call up to the duty. And that's why they will be there. And of course, they decide all these things, and they will rise up to that challenge. I just want to assure people that people should judge us with what we did before. If we use that system and we're able to use it well, in 2 governorship elections, 6 senatorial elections. A senatorial election is not a small election. 6 senatorial elections, federal constituency, and the small one in the FCT that I'm talking about. And we were able to improve from stage to stage. For Anambra, I think we are really ready.
That's great. Azinwa, what will be the national effect of the Anambra elections?
These are the questions that are always coming. One election, how does it election is one election is like there are no 2 meetings. The meetings are different. They have their character. They have their different complexioning. All that happens is learning. You learn from one to the other. You see, my current training is to problematize, put it out there. And the reason is because beyond being an election observer, I'm passionate about election, its processes. So I take much more deeper interest in. See, INEC every day sits down and is thinking about how to improve elections. It got to a point where INEC started the people's results from E60E, paste it, made it compulsory that once you finish at the polling unit, please paste this result on the wall so that people can snap, can take it. So political parties who have more than passing interests in the electoral process can actually have a PU by PU result if they have party agents. But what was the experience? You had officials who were not pasting those results, even when it was something that INEC had agreed that will improve the system. So if you paste that result, if you're a party agent, you just snap. Before this electronic thing that we are talking about, before you get to, you have already sent it to your own situation room. Your situation room can compute, what has come. But officials subverted those things in many places. I am saying I like the passion of the director. I am saying that the politicians, and Oga Kirian, you've heard me here, we over-respect them. We don't call them out. They sit back and subvert these processes through collusion.
With officials?
With officials and politically exposed persons in communities.
Because we need to make it very clear.
So I'm putting this out that yes, and I've had occasions where I've been somewhere and call up people and say, your people here are subverting this thing that you have told the whole world that you are going to do. So I gave credit. I said, I have not seen a commission that is so determined to improve elections like this commission in terms of what it does at every point in time to take out human. I understand what you are talking about. Moving is actually a comparison so that when the electronic comes, the manual, you can put them together. I understand all of that. But I'm saying that my worry for election in Nigeria has not been our attempt at improving election. I am more worried about the attitude of the politicians, their candidates, and community exposed persons in communities who work in tandem with INEC officials to even subvert their own processes. And I'm putting it out because if we pay attention in that area, when we do bimodal, when we do whatever system we put in place, that guarantee will be there. Okay? Sometimes you call these technicians, as nice as the director is talking about it, if they don't come, what will happen? If they don't come when you are expecting them, you create an emergency. And once you create an emergency, then you allow for somebody to take a decision. So once that emergency is created, the voters start piling pressure. And they say, okay, please, let's do it. Once they agree, that's the end of the matter. And if this happens in many places, you already have a challenge. So this is not academic. This is not, analyzing elections from. It is coming from field practical experience that is the very root of the challenge that we face. The technicians, the technocrats, the administrators are doing their best, but our politicians and their political parties are not singing from the same hymn book. And we need to get them to do that, and that's my focus. That's what my interest is.
Getting them to do that is not going to be an easy task, because individuals have their stakes when it comes to elections. There are persons who have been paid to effect this subversion you are talking about, and that's why I want to ask Professor Ibrahim, what does this portend for Nigerian elections? Because when officials who have been entrusted by INEC to execute whatever plans or strategy that has been put in place to ensure that the election is credible, these are same people who subvert the process, and of course you now put out what assumingly is going to be the right results, but yet wrong results. And of course, somebody could be declared winner or loser in such process. What does it portend for our elections in this country?
It portends an unfortunate situation which we have known, since the history of, democracy, in the country. And there are laws, rules and regulations, governing the conduct of elections. There are also punitive measures, that should be taken against those who actually breach these particular laws. And one major thing we must actually discern here is that those people who, as you know, call the collaborators, in this particular development, I think the law shouldn't take it lightly with them, because that actually that flexibility that allows those people to continue perpetrating such electoral evil is what actually continues to motivate them, into doing this, mess, in our electoral processes. And the INEC officials, for example, who are indulged into these particular practices should also be seriously, punished, so that to serve as a great lesson, to others who will later be actually deployed into electioneering processes in the country. So if you look at Anambra governorship election come 6th November 2021, you understand that it is going to be a hot election, as we've been envisaging. Why is it so? Because the strategic position of Anambra, as we earlier said, as well as the federal effect, as she made mention of. But the federal effect, we look at the let's say, neutrality of the security personnel that will be there to securitize the vote, the electorate, as well as the INEC officials and the party agent, as well as the ballot papers that will actually be deployed in these particular processes. Then apart from this, the INEC itself, which is an independent structure charged with the responsibility to conduct these particular elections. But the intervening variable, as we say, not only the INEC officials, an offer has to be made. And who makes the offer? He has already said that, the politicians. So, and INEC also has such rules. Anybody who is found guilty of such particular swaying or influencing such malpractice to halt, I think the stakeholders in the retribution process shouldn't actually take it lightly. And I must also commend INEC in their, effort in developing that particular strategy to transmit the result is not an easy task. Looking at Anambra and other places, you cannot imagine the INEC officials, taking the election results, manually and conventionally moving to INEC offices or headquarters in order to submit. The risk, is actually high when this is done in Anambra State. So we must commend INEC for perpetual improvement of electioneering process and conduct in the country. So Anambra election, as I earlier mentioned, is going to be a kind of a good experiment which will actually showcase what 2023 elections will actually present to Nigerians, as well as in terms of progress, as well as, accountability and efficacy of such elections. So I think INEC has done well, and you cannot actually be devoid of interferences as well as erring, in election processes, especially in Africa and elsewhere in the world. But adequate measures, as they are on the ground, they should actually effectivize as well as the outcome of whatever that might actually be seen later after the elections. All the necessary agencies that are actually stakeholders in this particular electioneering process should actually be ready in order to fulfill our righteousness and perfect our democratic journey as we're going to experience in Anambra State.
Indeed, Sharif, you've raised some pertinent questions which I believe the other guests will respond to when we return from this break. Do stay.
The housing has the responsibility to help improve the quality and the quantity of the road infrastructure asset, which are the roads and the bridges and the highways. At the moment, we have over 13,000 kilometers of road network under repair, reconstruction, or rehabilitation out of the existing 35,000 kilometers of federal road network. These 13,000 kilometers are comprising about 850 different contracts which the ministry superintends across Nigeria. We are fulfilling the mandate of our ministry to expand the connectivity of Nigeria's states and by extension the towns and villages through road transport.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground. And together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Two entertaining sides will be looking to get the results when they meet at Ellen Road. Who will come out on top? This Saturday, it's Leeds United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA, Silverbird Television and Sporties.com from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
You're welcome back. And as in one go, while Associate Professor Sharif was speaking, you were trying to react to some of the issues he has raised here. And what are the areas you want to talk about?
Well, I'm just, I'm a bit concerned because we have suffered reversals in terms of punishment and sanctions. The commission the commission and Akwa Ibom State resident electoral commissioner, after the 2019 election, took certain officials to court. nobody has followed what happened. Those professors that we celebrated, one of them who was convicted has been granted bail. Who is a convict granted bail by the Court of Appeal because his case will not come up on time. Those of you who know law very well, so the attitude, I keep pressing that the challenge is in terms of, because Prof was talking about sanction, retributive institutions doing what they should do. But the collaboration, this collaboration to subvert integrity of the electoral process needs to take a life of its own as a topic to be discussed. In terms of, because it's not enough for a country to be investing. I knew the investment in smart card reader. We came here, we were saying that's the game changer. If I remember, we were all
we had that program.
We were all saying the smart card reader is the game changer. The politicians in the National Assembly opposed it. We all came out in less than 2 cycles of elections. We have put it aside because the politicians undermined it, not because it did not. All those fingerprints cannot be got. Is not true. The electoral officials themselves will say, put it. They will say it's not. Yeah, we can't catch you. We can't catch you. We can't catch. Then they say, okay, leave it. Put it aside. Bring what's that thing they say?
There's a form.
The form, right? This is incident form. And then we by ourselves pushed out what we put billions of naira to do. So when we do this, I am saying you have done this investment. What is the guarantee to protect this your investment because of the other? That's what I'm pointing attention to. Yes, I don't expect the director to say if you did trial and you had a good outcome in trial, the subjective objective conditions in an election does not play in your trial. It does not come there because everybody is behaving himself to bring an outcome. Okay? But when you put money, the kind of resources we are investing in production, mass producing these things for, we need to also be concerned about how to safeguard subversion and undermining of that process. And the only way NTA has provided that opportunity, that's why I'm using it. Okay? NTA, talk to the politicians, talk to their candidates, talk to them and say, look, this our investment will mean nothing if you also don't cooperate. So what is the value? Oga Kirian talked about, stakeholders having interest and all that. At the end of the day, what is that interest? If there's a level playing ground, why would you rig an election that you are going to win? Why do you have an interest in rigging even an election that even in good conditions, you will still win that election? So let's not take out that competitiveness of elections. Let's agree that if we do the right thing, that at the end of the day, we benefit. Because it's about legitimacy. The question about governance, when you are a governor of a state and the people don't believe in their heart that they elected you.
Exactly.
You are going to Senate. The people don't believe that you are representing them. You are in House of Representatives. The people are in their heart knew you bought the election. You subverted the process. Legitimacy question continues to arise. So for me, it's not just about, pushing this envelope, we have done. And I'm not, sometimes people even say, they ask me whether I work for INEC, in terms of how I'm enthusiastic about the work they do. But we have come to that point where we also must look at what has been the challenge. What is the bigger challenge? The bigger challenge is the politicians, their candidates, and their supporters. Not singing, like I said, from the same hymn book. How do we do that? Is to have this kind of programs more and more that is focused on not just celebrating, technology, digitalization, and all of that. We can do all that the more we like, but don't key in to ensuring that these investments it will come to the next two years. We'll come and analyze how the bimodal had its own challenges and all of that.
And we would have advanced to another form of technology.
And then it all has to do with procurement too.
Exactly.
Because you keep putting money, investing, but look at what you have put a lot of money. When people say, oh, the world has moved to technology, the whole world is not moving to technology. I've observed elections in many places. There are still many places where the integrity level is still tolerable, where they are using
manual counting.
In Germany, we are dealing with integrity issue. We are dealing with trust issues. That's why we are keep moving and throwing our money to all kinds of companies.
You have really made a critical point here, Mr. Luko, in terms of integrity of an election. Yes, you may organize an election and declare result. But what about the authenticity of this result, the legitimacy of this result that you are declaring? And that is why, when it comes to litigation, sometimes INEC results are upturned, in court, at so many instances, in Nigeria. All right. So let's talk about the integrity of your personnel, either the ad hoc personnel that you hire for election or your own staff, because there's no way an election process can be subverted without the assistance of an insider, and who should be an INEC official, be it ad hoc or race staff of INEC. Because from all indications, Ezeanwago has been so passionate about this fact, and it does exist. We're all in Nigeria, and we understand that elections are upturned in courts on different occasions. So how do you handle this issue of integrity of your staff, and how have you made sure that the Anambra State election is not going to be affected by any subversive tendencies coming from your own staff?
There are 4 things involved when it comes to hiring staff for election. First, to hire the right staff in terms of education and ability. The second thing is to train the staff. You train them very well in terms of the processes, the procedures, and the use of the equipment you are bringing in. The third is to monitor their performance. That is, you monitor you inspect what you expect. You monitor them very well on the field. We have a lot of staff that are monitoring. That's our job. There are observers that we are observing them too, who will report what's happening. The fourth thing is to apply disciplinary measures without any fear or favor. When people err, you discipline them. Because in every situation in life, there's the issue of deviance and social control. So you expect that if you are putting about 1,000 people on the field, we are putting almost 26,000. You are putting 1,000 people on the field, you will expect that they will all be angels. So you prepare that in case anybody subverts the system, there are laid down procedures for disciplining them. If there are INEC staff, EOs, electoral officers, assistant electoral officers, some of our staff will be supervising presiding officers, you deal with them according to the service rules. The youth corps the youth corps members that we are using as presiding officers, of course, if you go and subvert the system, you will not get your certificate of the youth corps certificate, or the passing out something. You won't get it. The National Youth Service Corps will discipline that corps. You may have to maybe have another year extension of that type of thing. And apart from that, the laws are there. When you're an election official, apart from the internal discipline the organizations impose on the staff, you also face prosecution, and the person could end up in jail.
How many years? How long?
No, what I'm saying is,
if you are prosecuted,
you're talking about the issue of integrity of the system. I'm saying that when it comes to getting staff for election, there are 4 issues involved. And once we have done that, then we expect that everybody will comply. But I'm saying that in life, you cannot put out about 20,000 persons and think that one person will not misbehave. You only prepare that despite all you have done. If anybody misbehaves and you are able to catch them, and of course we have good ability to catch people. We are talking about the result viewing portal. If you are a presiding officer and you finished and the result shows a party scored 125, and you've already forwarded this to the portal. And you go to the collation, the RA collation center, and we found out that you are writing 521 instead of 125. Then you have to answer questions. And the person may end up in deeper trouble. That's what I'm trying to say.
Have they been made aware of the consequences
of course,
of such
during
acts?
training, we have training manuals. During training, we train people about the process, the procedures, use of the machine. Then we train them on other issues in terms of the law. That is, we will not protect anybody from any disciplinary measure. It doesn't even happen in ANEC.
Do you have
no ANEC staff wants to put himself in trouble.
Do you have any monitoring mechanism that is
Of
also
course.
technological in nature
Of
that
course.
made, discover such erring, because of course it's electronic. One could just, the question of typing it in. Is there any method by which you could detect such a thing using technology?
No, the thing is, when you are accrediting people, the system itself, tallies. It tallies let's say you have 500 voters in a unit and only 300 turn up. The system tallies it. There are agents with you, there are people with you, there are monitoring people with you. So if you now, out of the 300 people, and you say a party scored 58, and you have already projected, you're already forwarded, and when you come back, you see 85. 58 suddenly becomes 85. It's easy to do. And what I'm saying is, nowadays, people hardly take such risks because it will easily be detected. And nobody wants to be in trouble. Why would somebody, a 20-year-old copper, who just graduated and is now working as presiding officer, we want to go and put them in trouble, and we put them in trouble and possibly go to jail? Nobody will want to do that. But that doesn't mean that out of 1,000, you don't have one.
When someone is making money out of such deals, he doesn't look at the consequences. It's always natural. If you know that after doing that, you're going to make some millions or something.
So during training, we'll let them know all this. We'll let them know all this. You see, when people are young, they are idealistic. So let them know the results of
Director, it's not young people. Professors are not young people.
No, I'm talking about not the retinue of presiding officers.
Yes, let me bring in Sheriff, as we are winding down now slowly. What do you think? Fear is a factor, actually. What do you think the outcome of the Anambra election would look like?
Well, the outcome of the Anambra governorship election will be out immediately after the conduct of the elections, but what I envisage is a low voter turnout, which we earlier said. And apart from this, the election will also, have drastic monitoring, from all over the country, all institutions, as well as political observers. But by the end of the day, we hold the hope that the election will be actually free of hitches and glitches, even though we cannot completely eliminate such looking at the situation. Then apart from this, what will actually give that particular election integrity?
Okay, Mr. Sheriff, it's as if we have a problem with your microphone right now. Let's get the opinion of Ezenwa on the outcome of the Anambra elections.
I'm more of we are more of process people. Outcomes are for politicians. If the process has integrity, whatever outcome it throws up is acceptable to us, because at the end of the day, accreditation went well, voting went well, collation of results went well, and then the results are announced. The outcome becomes so you can now gauge how all of these processes went, and so we have a hawk-like attention to process. Those who have deeper interest in the election will be looking at who wins or who doesn't win. The politicians have presented, and their political parties have presented candidates to the people. They are already working, like I said. Forget everything you read in the media. People are campaigning. People are going into the villages, and observers are being trained all over the states. And I've been there more than 4 times, training different observer groups. So preparation for process is more serious for me than what the outcome will be. And that's why you see me shouting myself hoarse about how to hold that process strongly. Until we take out, for many politicians, their candidates, and even officials, they see election period as a bazaar. They think this is the time for money making. Okay? They think this is the time to make money. And so once that is what is driving you, everything the director talks about pales into insignificance. It's like the pack of cigarettes, where you see smokers are liable to die young. People still go and buy a cigarette. So we need to engage this conversation in a way that electoral officials see the sanctity and integrity of elections.
Well,
That's what we're doing.
I think as time goes on, we have about 2 weeks to the election. We understand that INEC will also be meeting with other stakeholders as we close it to the election, and of course be able to dot the I's and cross the T's with respect to other preparatory measures being put in place by INEC to ensure that Anambra State governorship election will go hitch-free. And of course, Good Morning Nigeria could have more time to discuss this election before the election, because there are maybe other matters arising with respect to preparations for the election. So at this point, we conclude the conversation on this particular topic this morning. I would like to appreciate all our guests for being here this morning. Ezeman Wagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms, and the convener, Say No Campaign Nigeria. Thank you indeed for coming. Victor Aluko, Director, Voter Education and Publicity INEC. It's been nice talking to you this morning. We hope to see you again before the elections. And Professor Sherif Gal Ibrahim, Associate Professor of International Relations with the Department of Political Science, University of Abuja. Thank you indeed for being here this morning, Prof.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to see you again on the same platform. All right, let's take some foreign news bits before we conclude today's edition of the program.
Ethiopia's military has launched a new airstrike on the Tigrayan capital, the second bombardment this week against Tigray's People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The raids mark a sharp escalation in the new year-long conflict in northern Ethiopia, pitting government forces and their allies against the TPLF, Tigray's once dominant ruling party. It was not immediately known if there were any casualties from the strike, which was reported by the TPLF as well as humanitarian and diplomatic sources. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government appears to be pressing a new offensive against the TPLF, which dominated national politics for almost 3 decades before he took power in 2018. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa marked the 35th anniversary of the death of Mozambique's first president, Samora Machel, vowing to go after Islamist insurgents wreaking havoc in the north of the country. The 16-nation Southern African Development Community, SADC, has deployed troops in northern Mozambique since July. The conflict has since 2017 killed more than 3,300 people and displaced around 800,000 others.
And sports update is next.
Uchenna Kanu scored a brace as the Super Falcons of Nigeria defeated the Black Wings of Ghana 2-0 in their first leg African Women's Cup of Nations qualifier on Wednesday at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena on Icon, Lagos. With Nigeria enjoying the bulk of possession, Kanu gave them the lead in the 22nd minute after a pass from Francisca Odega and doubled a side's lead 4 minutes later. With the win, Super Falcons secured their 11th victory in 18 encounters against the Black Wings ahead of the second leg at the Accra Sports Stadium on Sunday. Also, Super Eagles forward